Hi everyone, it's Michelle Lightworker here and welcome to another Enlightened Conversation. Today I have a fantastic opportunity to reconnect with Jake Cooper. We connected last year and spent some time speaking about his near-death experience, and which I'd love you to all hear today. Jake is actually someone who I really admire because he's really taking hold of an opportunity to share his message of his near-death experience to help enlighten people, to prepare them for their own enlightenment journey. He's also a qualified mental health counsellor and he runs mindfulness workshops. He's also a certified hypnotherapist, Reiki Master, and this is all good fodder for after he's prepped everyone to go out there into their enlightenment journey, to give them the tools required to help them be those beautiful foot soldiers of spiritual enlightenment. So welcome, Jacob.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me. Such a pleasure to be here. I know we last did a show, when was it? Over the summertime, I believe. And Here we are, well, in the summertime in New York, and here we are in the dead of winter. I'm supposed the summer by you. So it's a nice role reversal, and it's a great time as always to join you, and I'm really looking forward to the program. I know it's been a long time planning, and here we are. So yeah,
and I it's interesting because I originally I thought, how am I going to fit all the people onto this show that I admire and that I've already connected with, that I want to reconnect with in a different way? Because when I've been doing interviews and things like that in the past, it was a very short amount of time, and it didn't give me really the opportunity to breathe out and to really dive into what I would have loved to have perhaps explored, that would come through, like I say, creating that space, spirit to drop through and to really give us some good fodder for ourselves, and also for everybody else to chew the enlightenment fat. So I'm kind of excited about the fact that we've got that space to do that today.
No, that's terrific. I know last time it was a bit shorter, but time is of the essence. But now, we have a lot more freedom and time to really, divulge into many different, areas in the field. I think it's wonderful, and I'm sure the viewers are going to get a lot out of it. I'm looking forward to our program here today.
Yeah, I am. I love that you've had this experience of your near-death experience when you were little. And not only are you in mental health, but then you're also weaving, you've got Reiki and you've got hypnotherapy and you've got your mindfulness training, and you're a weaver of sorts of modalities together. It feels to me like you're allowing yourself to be expansive, like in the mainstream. But I really admire that, because I feel that that's, for me, it's role modeling the new normal, like what mental health really means, and not just a clinical level of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way I see it is healing from the ground up. The mental health aspect really allows me to understand, people from a grounded perspective, and dealing with relationships, dealing with life transitions. I also work, in the field of substance abuse as well, with addictions, and that is a little bit of a higher field. A lot of 12 steps programs really incorporate God and, letting go and stuff like that. So for me, in order for me to be this rock star that I desire to be, healer, as a young guy, I recognize the value in, starting from the ground up and knowing the ABCs before I do some of the higher stuff. But for me, it was topsy-turvy. I started off with the higher stuff, and then I had to learn to decompress and to really ground myself and to live that Turian lifestyle that I was destined to live, as we both are.
Yes.
So that to me is the test and the challenge, and I hope to slowly but surely really come into this form and to allow others to really do it, after I've really, have been there. But in order for me to be this healer, I really need to understand all those, I need to live the human life. I need to go from the ground up. So it's a role reversal. from being a young guy, from the way that I lived, but it's going well.
Yeah, it's so funny because like I kind of had a near-death experience when I was 5'2", but I didn't die. And I drowned in a pool, and then I was rescued. And I came out of that feeling like I couldn't trust anyone to really take care of me. You could take it the other way as like, oh, thank God someone saved me. And so it's interesting how we take near-death experiences, all those, those moments of traumas in our lives where we're close to death. And so for me, it was, I can't rely on anyone. I have to take care of myself. That was followed up, my reality was followed up by mum working nights, not at home when I was little, had to be there on my own. What we call a latchkey kid, I think it's called. And it's that you make your way into your own home. No one's ever there for you to open the door. If you lose your key, you're climbing through the window, which is up a story. That's the kind of existence I had. And it's kind of interesting. I'm fascinated because I'm a Taurine too. And my early years were highly organised, and well, for me, because I lived in a chaotic home. So I came into being an extraordinarily highly independent and organised being. And I've had to unlearn a lot of all that to let go to allow the spiritual stuff to come through. In fact, just to let you know, it was in 2005 when I'd actually taken time off that all my stuff kicked off in a big way. And I'd been a counsellor at that time, clinical counsellor for many years, and also a counsellor for specialising in multi-addictions for about 5 years. So our journeys, I'm really quite intrigued about how our journeys are kind of similar but different.
Yeah, well, different is what makes it special, and makes it unique. But you're right, there's a tremendous amount of parallels between me and you. I know we have different similar type of eyes as well, so that's pretty cool. But what I'll say is that with the NDE and this whole community, people will come to you, and I'm sure you've had it where they think, oh, you've seen it all, so now you kind of get it. What they don't understand is, the traumatic aspect to it, especially, being a young age. And I think, when we're so wired, attachment to others and guaranteeing, our mothers right there or caregivers, right next to us, and having that, broken, that's a real trauma. And that's, that really reconstructs our worldviews. Our worldviews are very much based on our first couple of years. So, I think, what I'm doing going forward is I'm trying to really get involved with a lot of networking in terms of individuals who've had near-death experiences, because I think, first of all, it's fascinating, it's healing, but also, going forward, I think that's the next step, in terms of counseling, almost to like specialize, in spiritual type traumas where, you had if it was NDE or something like that, or, and you're looking for that, kind of spiritual guidance, from the ground up. I think that's a real, down the road step. But first we have to get the licensure boards to really, be in one with that, but it will take time. But I think that traumatic aspect is something uniform on anyone who's had it. And, I just wish as a young kid that I had someone to talk to that could understand. And I had to live about 15 years with that and not really understanding what exactly I had, what it was. Thank God for literature. I was able to pick up a couple of books. One of them was Embraced by the Light by a woman by the name of Betty Eadie. I think I'm pronouncing it right, but she wrote one of the most groundbreaking near-death experience book. And for me, once I picked that up, it was, everything just opened up and clicked. It was a real diagnosis, much like clients will, if they're given a diagnosis. And I think diagnosis has its positives and, negatives. It could be limiting as well. But it allows you to be comfortable. And it really, we really are a tangible society. We like to define things. So I think that diagnosis of NDE is great, and that's become a popular type term. And, I think across professionals, everyone knows it by now. So I just wish someone told me that that's what it was. I had no idea what to label it as. I just thought it was, I don't know. It was just this dark secret that I had inside of me, that I thought that a lot of people had, and they do, but it's a very rare company when you think about it, of people who've actually have had near-death experiences. I don't know the statistics of it, but it's rare, you know, but they're out there.
And so that people know, just that NDE means near-death experience, just to
Yeah.
state the obvious, but we want to make sure that you all kind of are following what we're talking about. And do you want to expand just a little bit for people, and then they can actually hear a little bit about your story around what happened for you, and then put that in context?
Absolutely. And I apologize for not clarifying near-death experience. I know for us, you know, in this bubble, it's common language, but on outsiders, it's maybe not as known. So my apologies. But
That's all right.
I know, you know, in our discussion, we were talking about discussing this, and you asked me if this is something that I wanted to discuss. And for me, it's always a healing when this is put out there in the public for myself and others, because, you know, from the dawning of time, it's man or woman's number one question is what happens when we die. You know, I've had very clear answers to that, you know, from a very young age, as I do think we all do. I think everyone has a firm understanding in their subconscious mind of what happens in the hereafter. It's a knowing. When you look at pets, for instance, they'll go into the corner of the room and they'll kind of know exactly what's happening on a spiritual basis, because when they're attuned. When you talk to some people in hospice, their understanding of what's transpiring to them, it's familiar. And you say it's familiar, that would mean that you've been here before. So past lives are very real and authentic. But from my near-death experience, I suffocated. I had something that was called whooping cough, which was an endless, unstoppable cough that just progressively got worse and worse. And I wasn't diagnosed with it. I didn't know what it was. I caught it from a next door neighbor. And then my brother also had it at the same time. But I went to a park and I tried to go down a slide, and I literally suffocated. Every organ and thing in my body just shut down one step at a time. And I was in the last part of my being, which was my brain. And I saw inside of my brain, I saw the interesting parts, and I knew the brain instantaneously. And that just literally snapped in half. And after that, you name it, I saw it, you know, from spiritual guides to thousands of angels to, you know, family members within my soul family, inner circle. I really had cross consciousness to a full degree. I saw a lot of archangels as well. So, and I was able to look in the, you know, my own Akashic records, and I saw a lot of previous lifetimes and people who, you know, went into those lifetimes, and I kind of made sense of why this was happening in the here and now. So it was, are you okay? It was quite cool.
Yeah, I just had to mute myself because I had to sneeze. So there's something, obviously a lot of energy around that. I can feel it, and it's all coming through me. So anyway, yeah.
I know that you're not allergic to near-death experiences, having had one yourself, so it must be the allergies. But for someone who didn't, I would suspect maybe it's overwhelming.
Well, usually they say usually when you sneeze, it's true. So if that's anything to go by, that was a whopper of a sneeze. So validating your story, but not that you need that. But
no, I wouldn't make this up. This is something that. You know, I wouldn't wish on anyone for the trauma aspect of it. I'm thankful for what transpired, but at the same token, it's not easy to live with such a trauma, you know, suffocating at such a young age, and then having all these truths full blown, you know, from crossing over to the other side and seeing all its dimensions, and then going back to this life in, you know, in preschool and kindergarten, and trying to just, you know, go there and play in the football game or go into school. It's crazy. You know, it's like a wild weekend times 10, and then you're asked to go to school on Monday. It's like, you know, it's like what's it called? Being on ayahuasca for about a week or two, and then being asked to go to school. I'm like, and then no one knew what to make of it, you know, so I woke up and I understood also the law of attraction and the power, of our thoughts from that experience, and how we have a decision and a part in staying here or going within this lifetime, and how we are really a part of the designing, aspect within this lifetime. As I had the option of staying or going within this lifetime, and the power of choice, that's really there within this lifetime, and everything is collaborative, in a team effort when you cross over between your spiritual entities, which are your specific guides, and then your soul family, and then angels surrounding you and stuff like that. So it's very collaborative. But I also had a lot of doubts, in a sense that I was able to not only see my past but also my future and the work that I would be doing. So I didn't really believe in that. And the last message that I got spiritually was, watch your thoughts, because your thoughts become your reality. And with that, it all just kind of dissipated. And I was woken up on a hospital bed, here in Long Island, and highly frustrated because I couldn't fathom or put into words what exactly happened. And it was one of the most frustrating sensations that I've ever had in my life, because I saw my mother was right there, and I wanted to shake her and just explain, the glory of God and what I just saw and how clear it was. And I couldn't put it into words, and I'm still trying to this day, but words will never suffice or amount to what happened. They're always, but it's something, and it's the most that we can do, because we're not yet a telepathic society fully. So words do mean something, Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if we were going to sit here and have a conversation telepathically, it wouldn't be near as entertaining, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's great. Words are fun, and yeah, I'm really with you. It's hard to capture the essence of those kind of powerful experiences with words.
Right.
I was trying to describe. I was lying in bed yesterday morning, and I had this surge before dawn of energy. And then I was trying to, and it was a buzzing feeling, and I knew my guides had told me it was integrating some base chakra, higher frequencies into my base chakra, and it was just happening because I'd been consistently operating on a certain level. And then I was trying to articulate that after the fact to my husband. It was a surge, and because he works in the electrical industry, he's like, like when a circuit, and I was trying to explain it. It's just, you had to be there. You had to be there to really get it. Mm-hmm. But hopefully the words can capture the energy behind what's happened. And I can feel it. I mean, as you're talking, I can feel it.
Yeah, thank you. It's about perception. And to me, we're a very tangible society. If you look at an artist, every artist starts off with an inspiration, and then they draw upon that vision or that imagery of what they see. It's never quite exact that way, but it's subjective within their own filter. The same thing spiritually. Well, we all have these little hits and images, and the rest is the footwork process, where we, try to put into words or make sense of the seemingly unsensible. And that's the beautiful portraits that we all draw within, our lives, based off of a lot of imagery and visions and inspirations that come in within our higher mind, or the Godhead mind, whatever you look at it as. But the ultimate beauty is seeing our role, which is, that we're intermediaries between the two worlds. So if we're able to be good communicators between the two, and, really put out that message, we're really doing our jobs. And even if it's not accurate or as great as we'd like it to be, the perfection lies within the imperfection, as we're doing the great work. So,
I'm curious. I'm wondering what your favorite, I guess, if when you're in doing your work and you're feeling like, I really love it when I'm able to talk to these people or about this subject, blah, blah, blah. Do you find you have like a particular kind of person or group of people that you love talking to that really makes you feel like you're in your groove, like this is where I love to be?
You're talking about in my professional work, or just outside of being a therapist? Or yeah, no. For me,
fine.
I think, just because someone's spiritual doesn't mean that you connect on all levels. A lot of it is the personality aspect to that person. And we think about it, we all have so many different journeys, and there's so many different energies that we have. So for me, it's connecting to that like-minded spiritual individual. I found a couple of those where you kind of look at that person and you just soul brother or soul sister comes to mind. And the inverse of that, when you kind of see someone for being spiritual and they are spiritual, but personality wise, there's a disconnect, and that's okay, because not everyone's going to get you, even if they are spiritual.
That's so true. I'm a kooky spiritual person. Like, not everybody's kooky like me. Like, not everybody gets my kooky humor.
No.
I'm always laughing at myself, or always laughing at how funny we make life, or situations, how difficult we make the situations. It's hilarious. And not everybody. I think some people are bogged down in the seriousness of thinking that, like you were saying, like the perfection of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like, life's too short. I mean, I have been there. Hey, I spent a lot of my life in that zone. And perhaps quietly in that zone, because I had quite a kooky family, like, a lot of laughter and stuff like that amidst the dysfunction. There was a lot of laughter. But at the same time, I think internalized a perfectionistic thing that I never felt enough,
Yeah.
But I think for me, the biggest healing is, I've got to say, as I'm asking you this question, feeling like you can totally be all of you with a person is the bee's knees, like, all the different components of your personality, the kooky side, the spiritual side.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. I love that too.
And I think, what's very important is to, if you can, honor the family that you come from. Because when you think about it, from my experience, usually the family that you're carnated with has a lot of deep-rooted ties. It's not always the case. I'll give you a story. One day when I was, I had a spiritual mentor when I was 19 or 20 years old, which was my great aunt. She would prescribe to me all the good literature and stuff like that. She was highly advanced. She was about, 80 years old, but she really knew her stuff. So on her deathbed, she was describing to me a picture of my family. And I go, what are you talking about? And she goes, have you ever looked at a picture of your family? I go, yeah, I'm the best looking one there. No, no, she said, no, seriously. When you look at a picture of a family, some faces and personalities may be different, but if you really look deep into the eyes of the family, there's a common thread and a common theme and a commonality that's very, very deep and goes way back. And I sat with that message and I go, okay, fine. And then I was having a reading a year later, and this woman says, I'm connecting to your aunt. She mentioned her name, and she said, why should you keep on telling me the word picture? Picture. So the picture that she was talking about within the family. So then I knew, that message to me is real. So I think, what's important is really to try to, make most peace with the family that you're in, because when you graduate this lifetime, these are the actors and actresses that you are with. And it's so important to honor, where you come from. You don't have to be 9 times out of 10 with every form, but to really step into that energy and to own it. Thank God I was blessed to come into a wonderful family, and it took me a certain amount of years to recognize that, because as kids, we all think that we could do it differently or better. And I think you should do it better because you're the next generation. You should take it to that next step. But always keep in mind that your these are deep roots. But also family is very flexible. You could have people that just come into your lifetime who were family or close friends within many different lifetimes. So the biology of family isn't necessarily so important. It's a flexible term of it. And I think, everyone energetically is differently wired. And, so many people shy away from that, which is unfortunate, their personalities and who they are to kind of fit that mold. And sometimes, that may need to happen if you're on a job or stuff like that. But, clients who come into my office, they'll come in and they'll describe some of that suppression that they had, and we'll, evaluate. Is this getting in the way of your job performance? Or is this your biggest ally? And, who are you asked to be at the end of the day when you think about it? Were you asked to satisfy that boss? Or were you here to step into you and to step into your own power? So that's the greatest test. That's the greatest accomplishment. That's the real graduation, is stepping into you. That's a forever process.
Oh my God, it so is, isn't it? And the thing that's coming through for me is about genuine connection and identifying what those genuine connections are. Because you're right, like we choose our family, we choose our experiences so we can step into who we really are. And so even if we're not close with them for whatever reason, because maybe we've outgrown them or we don't resonate with them anymore, we can still have that gratitude and that peace in our heart for our choices, because it's helped us to step into where we are. Yeah. And same goes like with work situations, with relationship situations. It's like, okay, maybe our biggest teacher is in the form of an asshole today, but it's still helping us to decide, do I want to step into me or do I want to step away from me and to be someone who I don't want to be? So there's a test for ourselves going on, or not a test as in, I'm being tested, but just an opportunity to step more into who we are all the time. That's part of the reason why I started the show. Like, I had to kind of let go of a different way of doing things and really own and step into what I was being guided to do. And I know that it's part of my journey of awakening. I know doing this show is that. It's not you could say it's a community service, which it is, but it's also a service for my enlightenment as well. Otherwise, I shouldn't be doing it, because what's the point? Just to go, oh, this is something I can do. It has to, I think all those choices have to be authentic, that, we're authentically connecting with our choices, our people, our tribe, our family, what we're creating. That's, for me, that's really living. That's really living this life.
Yeah, and it's attracting a certain consciousness to come, to your path, via listeners. And, I think that's the ultimate family that everyone's trying to connect is, the important aspect is group and, maximizing and finding like a real, network that doesn't lose sight of the universality of all, things, because that's important, but it's very also important to find an inner circle. And, for instance, when I'm speaking, I don't take it personally if, let's say, I have someone from the scientific community coming after me for, all kinds of things about my experience, because I recognize that, when you're out there, people will come in your path who are supposed to. And, those that don't want to listen, it's a lot of ways, maybe not for them, or a lot of them protecting defense mechanisms that they have to accept this stuff. So I think a lot of it is recognizing the value of connecting to this whole soul energy, this whole soul wavelength within this movement that we all have at large. And, thank God, I'm thankful that there's many different, paths and energies that people could enter, because otherwise, I couldn't say that people have a real home. To me, home is, you could go somewhere and it's a style that fits you and works with you. And you have to make it work with you as well. So to me, that makes the world a lot more of a smaller place, as long as we don't lose sight on, the big values at hand. And, within the micro, we have the macro. And I think that's important. People could get stuck in the micro, and that's religion to me. So,
I understand what you mean. And I think that, like, it brings up for me that whole thing around that we are living a journey that we're finding out where we resonate, probably is the best word right now, because it's like, if we can do that and we have peace with that, and we're not trying to justify that, even if someone's challenging it, like the scientific world, whatever, if we're just at peace with it, say, yeah, cool, there's a challenge, there's an interesting observation over there, that perhaps in the paradigm that person is coming from, that is actually an interesting question, because that would be worth asking. And so just to be able to have that level of peace and that level of detachment, because I think when we can do that, we then, while we're giving ourselves that permission to completely be at peace with where we resonate,
Yeah.
then we extend that to that person too, instead of judgment, or instead of the, oh, you're just being a difficult asshole person in the corner of the room, because there's always one usually, in the audience that we could just target with our head and go, oh, you just don't get it, like we can go there, right?
Well, what I'll say is we talk about spiritual evolution, but it's about emotional and psychological evolution as well. I hate to get political, but we look at, the last president that we just had. To me, he could be attacked by anyone and he wouldn't take offense to it because he is secure in his own self. And for him, it doesn't get to him versus the other guy, someone's calling him out, he's going to go back and forth with him and it's going to get to him. So, it's about identifying people in society that you want to gravitate to and look up to and cultivate a lot of, aspects about them. And do you want to be that guy who steps into you, or do you want to be swayed, very quickly by the winds of the world? So it's about being very grounded, being very solid, and not taking things too personally, and always trying to take the high road, and trying to, I guess, be an Obama. Some people like him, but to me, that's what life is about, is taking that high road. And really doing the best possible thing in any situation. And, I think that's learned, and through your own evolution, it becomes natural and easy to do the hard stuff,
Yeah.
Play it well,
Yeah. And I just think that, I think that it might even be a slogan. Well, I don't know if it's a slogan in the 12 steps, but I remember it was a slogan somewhere. I heard it might have been Al-Anon, live and let live. I think is that a 12-step slogan, one of the slogans?
It could be. I mean, I'm not too familiar with 12-step. I do more individual. 12-step is more AA, group type stuff. So that sounds about right, though. But
yeah. If it's kind of interesting, live and let live. Okay, 4 words, right? But what it's really saying, it's like live. In other words, what does that mean to you? Which I think you've talked about, stepping into you is really living.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the irony, isn't it? One needs to have seen the expansion of what we're here for, and that we have a choice to be here in order to then truly choose to live, like really live.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that, your pep talk that you call it, or you're prepping your audience for, the stuff the tools that they can use to walk the journey, with the ammunition to go out into the spiritual battlefield. I feel like that stuff is really inspiring, because what it really says is, it says, you know what, guys, you don't have to nearly die to get this. You can actually get this. I did that one. Here you go. I'm serving it up for you.
We're in the club. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're serving it up to them and saying, well, hey, here it is. You don't have to go through it. But guess what? You can catapult off it, and you can actually choose to live. But at the same time, when you choose to do that, there's a component, the universality that you were talking about before, which is that unity factor, that we're all connected. So as you choose to live your life, remember that you are also choosing for everyone else to live theirs as well, that you don't have the power and control over everybody else's life. They are self-determined, and they can choose to live the life they wish.
We definitely don't. And it's funny that you say the word live, because we could be human bodies and just going on, and living is very broad. It could be, you could really feel that life within you. You go for that run and you feel that gist, or you feel that, extra, jolt, or you could be sitting on your bed and, feeling. So, it's about trying to tap into life and trying to have life recreate itself, all the time. But it's funny that you talk about that connectivity within some of the work that I do. I do a lot of, meditational workshops, and stereotypically, a lot of people think that people who meditate are a bit self-centered, and that it's all about them. And I think that may have some truth of people who do that, but that wasn't the goal of it. The goal, when you really are connecting and clearing a lot of, stuff that you have, you really are able to be a lot more altruistic, and
Yeah.
really are able to connect to the world around you, because you really are operating within your energetic bodies, which is very connected, very much so, to the all. And I've had a firsthand experience with that when I had my powerful out of body experience, when I had that insane enlightenment, when I felt that one strand of energy. I was out of my body for about 3 or 4 weeks. Energetically, I just exploded. It was like a Kundalini crazy experience. Something that I didn't read in a book, but I think that that's the goal. When I have my students, is to step into the all. And I think clients, when they're experiencing depression or anxiety, I think why they have that is because there's a spiritual discord.
Absolutely.
You're not supposed to feel that egocentric or that isolated, and that's a limiting factor. And when you're feeling isolated, no wonder why you don't feel comfortable in a room or comfortable with yourself, because you're constantly focused on yourself versus clearing and connecting, and then clearing to the broader. You're taking a vacation away from you, and you're mindful, and you're focused on your surroundings, because at home you're pretty good. So you're able to juggle both and have that balance between the outer and inner, um, dimensions. So that's one of my pieces that I really try to hammer home within my workshops.
Love that.
Yeah.
I really love that.
Yeah.
That's so perfect, isn't it? And it totally sums it up. That it's hard to can't feel connected when you're so focused on me. And I think that's the thing is the key to the kingdom really, is that the solid connection to the I, but that's not the full stop at the end of it. It's a comma. There's a comma.
Yeah.
Punctuation, in universal punctuation, it's I realize I am I, comma, so that I may also see the I in you. That is us, that is all, that is we, something along those lines. And we're on the journey towards that. I think some people need to be in the shadow of that narcissism disconnect, big time, for a while before they get it. But that's also part of the journey as well.
Yeah.
So.
And that crosses over to substance abuse as well, because
Totally.
when you think of substance abuse and getting high, to me that means expansion, and that's really experiencing something greater and more than yourself. So, I think people have a lot of great spiritual motivations and incentives. I think, their motives are great, but it's just about redirecting and educating a lot of them to experience, understand that, you could be spiritual and have those same exact feelings times about 20 or 30. And I've had that where, when I've been out of my body and I've felt everything, and it's unlimited what you could feel. I mean, the greatest stoppage is yourself. And there's a discipline, there's a certain methodology of, balancing your energies and stuff like that. But it's not the drugs that get you to that point. You're already there. That just opens up and allows you to, because you let it. So, and it's about letting go and learning how to do that. And that's a real discipline. That's a practice, but that's natural. But we've changed the natural. We made it artificial, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right. I was thinking that the other day. It's kind of funny that you should bring it up, but the whole thing, when you actually look at, I know a lot of people want to disconnect from humanity or the feelings of humanity by using drugs, because they don't want to feel. They don't want to be in their body. They don't want to feel. But then at the same time, they're chasing a high to connect to something bigger or to have an expansive feeling. So what they're really saying is, using the drugs, is I want to learn how to manage the way I feel, and develop a relationship with my feelings that's more functional, because I'm not coping right now with the fact that I'm feeling so heavily, or I'm feeling too much. And I want to connect to something bigger than myself, so that I can actually feel like I am more empowered, really, you know. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting because, yeah, when you actually take away the drugs and you know, and the other things that people are using to get that high, and then you connect to something really authentic, it places the need to want to do that, because you're not, it's like filling the hole in the soul. You're not chasing that feeling.
Oh, yeah. You know, and you have a good association with the natural, you know, and kind of working towards that point. You know, I think, you know, once that has a good taste in your mouth and you're able to really understand the value of chasing that healthy lifestyle, and, you know, understanding that, you know, and trusting that, you know, once you're pursuing that you're going to feel good, that's when that self-confidence comes in. You're able to really step into your own toolbox and run after those things versus feeling disempowered and chasing something outside yourself, you know. So it's all about the taste that you have in your mouth. And I know from a hypnotherapist, you know, it's about good association and negative association that we have towards our pursuits. You know, if we are going to do something and it has in the back of our mind a good association, we're going to be wired to constantly chase that. It's getting that bad taste and that negative sensation that will allow us to stop it and redirect our intentions towards another area, you know, where we could have that same intention, you know, there, but channeled differently, you know.
Yeah. And do you find too, like, different places that you go, just in terms of being on this planet and the earth and everything like that, that you feel differently in different places too? I know for me, I've been to, like, when traveling, I have been to, you know, say a certain country or a certain place within Australia or whatever, and gone, gee whiz, I really feel like these high vibrational frequencies are more accessible for me here. Or wow, they've really taken something to another level for me. I experienced that at Uluru, which is Ayers Rock, which is the middle of Australia. For those of you who don't know Australia very well, so it's a really huge, big rock.
I'm one of them.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You got to get me out there.
Oh my God.
Here soon. Yeah.
Oh, good. I cried as soon as the plane, like, touched down. My heart felt like it was just, and I just cried. Like, it was like amazing. And I think sometimes on our journey we underestimate that being in certain places of the world really change our energy and our vibration. So I think traveling too is, even though people might not look at it like meditation, I feel like traveling is, for me, a bigger kick-ass meditation, because you're letting go of your head and you're allowing yourself to just experience a new reality, like physically, completely. And so just curious about that for you. Have you experienced that for yourself?
I couldn't agree more. I think that, you know, traveling is very spiritual if you allow it to, because to me, spiritual is coming, you know, to that blank slate and then recreating life and experiencing life and having it as a newness and as a focus. I think if we're wired, you know, on this hamster wheel that we have, it becomes routine, you know, that's when it becomes stagnant and you're not able to feel as much or taste as much or experience as much. So I think, yes, there is a definitely truth. You know, a lot of areas are higher spiritual vibrational than others, from the stratospheres and also from the transmissions of our, electro. Well, I think the brainwave frequencies definitely affect the land. You know, here I am in New York. It's a very high, fast-paced society, and a lot of people could walk into it, and you'll catch yourself, you know, catching their breath and stuff like that. Not all of New York, you know, but Long Island in the city. You go upstate, it's incredible. It's very spiritual. So a lot of it is, you know, the brain waves that we really omit. You know, it talks about fossil fuels coming out of, you know, a lot of these, things that we have in our environment. I'm messing up on the word. So our brains, you know, omit our own energies. So, you know, I think, you know, the more higher spiritually evolved, you know, the brains of different societies and kind of the calmer, more sedated that are in the deeper brainwave states, the better you're going to feel. So, I mean, when you go to places with a lot less people, that's why you'll be able to feel that almost like your breath is probably going to feel a lot deeper. You're going to feel a lot more in tune with your area, and it's you'll feel that spinning sensation maybe of your energetic centers. So that will be it. But for me, it's funny that you asked that, because in about 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to Sedona, Arizona on a vacation.
Oh, I knew it. I just keep saying the desert. I'm like, are you going to Sedona?
Well,
and I was going to ask you outright.
I got the red shirt to match the red rocks over there. But you may be psychic. Who knows? No. But very, very good pickup, my intuitive friend. Now I'm going to be going there in a couple of weeks. I go there kind of on my own. I just spent the summer there working in a program before I got this new job that I have as a full-time therapist. To me, Sedona is a place that is home. The West to me is home. In my near-death experience, I was really able to see a lot of past lives, within that region. I don't know if it was Sedona per se, but, Arizona, New Mexico, that kind of region to me is home, very much so. So that's why I kind of go there, and I do plan on living, out West one day. I just have to work out the details of getting my licensure and all that other technical stuff, but it will happen. But yes, I will be in Sedona about 3 or 4 weeks. And for anyone who doesn't know about Sedona, I could go all day about it. And I know you know a great deal about it, but in the United States, it is, probably the most spiritually evolved and most powerful, place that we have to offer. It's kind of like a place where it's basically, all vortexes going very quickly, and the land, from its alignment, in the stratospheres is very open to metaphysical or spiritual, type healing or big sensations. And the Native Americans who used to go there, they used to point to the ground and they would identify it as very sacred ground and very holy. And they would, draw pictures of the vortexes actually in the rocks that we could still find today. So Sedona is very, very spiritual and very evolved and very healing. So much like you had in Australia, they're within pockets on the planet. So we have these special type places, but all places have their own, spirituality to them.
And sometimes you need to pick yourself up and go somewhere, and so that you leave your head behind a little bit, and all the constructs of what you think your world is, and you just need to leave a place and go somewhere. I know I did that when I was 26. I left Sydney, didn't know where I was going, put my doona and my dog in the car and headed up north, and I ended up in Byron Bay, and I stayed there for 2 years, and it was the best thing I could have done, just to go, you know what, I'm really not feeling it here. I'm over Sydney. It was a bit like being in New York in a way. And I didn't realize it at the time, but my energies were really full. Like I had a lot to process. I'd just finished 2-year Steiner education course and, our orientation in anthroposophy with Rudolf Steiner, which is, he's a spiritual scientist. And there was a lot of information that I was integrating. And while I was integrating all that, I really needed to shift energetics. And that's, I moved out of Sydney and I'd lived there for 26 years, and I moved to Byron Bay, and then 2 years after I moved up here to the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, and I felt like it was more home for me. I've never moved back to Sydney. I'm 46 I'm 47 this year. So it's an amazing thing sometimes when we shift gears and we know we've got to go somewhere, that it just, everything changes for us. But a funny story I've just got to share is that we're going to be driving from Colorado down to Grand Canyon, and I said to my hubby, I really want to stop in at Sedona. I just have this feeling to go to Sedona, and so we're actually going to stay in Sedona. So I'm excited. I know it's only just a little bit, but I can't wait, because when I was at Uluru, the red dirt was like ridiculously awesome, and I would just take off my shoes and just go walk about, like we call it in Indigenous culture. Say, let's just go walk about, and we just go take off our shoes and go walk about, and it was just awesome. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you're going from Australia all the way to the Grand Canyon, you gotta go to Sedona. It's about an hour and a half drive, and I know we'll talk privately about it. I got a couple of places to check out, but I'll definitely send you some pictures on my travels. I'm very excited. It's going to be my first vacation and starting this job. So I can't wait, you know. Yeah.
Oh, so excited for you. So apart from that, like what's coming up for you this year? Have you got lots that are you doing anything that we should know about? And how can people find you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for me this year, I'm doing a lot. It's a lot of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. You know, when I first started in April, it was mostly just speaking that I was doing. And then that led to radio, like with you, you know, online radio and stuff like that. And now for me, I'm looking at television. I've done already a cable television show, which is big, and I have another one coming up. So the television aspect is great. Also, another big aspect to what I'm doing is hypnosis. So I'm going to be going into colleges and doing hypnosis for academic success, as well as running mindfulness groups within two different colleges. One is an osteopathic medicine school, and the other is the school that I went to. They have an undergrad and a graduate program there, so I'm going to be there for a couple of days. And my biggest goal is to become a keynote speaker for the International Association for Near-Death Studies. They have a program out in Colorado. So I sent out on my application, and let's see where it goes. And it's meant to be able to be. So for me, I have my mind set over there. But, you know, in the meantime, I'm going to be presenting in February, early February, for the Long Island Hypnosis chapter. I'm going to be presenting about my own experiences and how that ties into hypnosis. So early February, I'm going to be speaking at the chapter. And then, you know, a couple radio shows coming along and TV programs, and I'm sure I'm going to have a couple other venues coming along as well. So it's quite interesting. I would really like to get involved in hospice work. I've been trying to get to hospice place to kind of, you know, clear and redefine and the hereafter, because, you know, people who are about to lose their loved ones are very out of sorts with what's to happen. And, you know, I think, you know, the ultimate healing is to maybe provide something that may give some people deja vu about their own understanding of what's to come. So to me, I'm looking at that. So a couple different stuff. But, you know, website-wise, I haven't changed my manager. I'm still the same website URL. It's www.jacobstory.com. It's JACOBSTORY.com. And I know I'm also going to be doing an interview with Raul coming up on the show. So we're going to, you know, it's going to be quite cool that we're, you know, and we were able to talk. And I'm very excited for what's to come with our show, you know, for the fans and, you know, for people. It's going to be great. You know, we had an excellent conversation. So, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you know, and I'm sure there's going to be a couple other things that happen. So,
yeah,
you know.
absolutely. I'm excited to watch your journey unfold, and you know, it is living, and it is exciting to sort of, you know, see where things kind of affect other things, and then you look back and go, oh wow, it's amazing how everything is so connected. And I'm excited for you. You know, it's so funny. I've got to share another connection. Okay. So you know, at the end of last year, when Spirit said to me, we just want you to book everybody in, I thought, how the hell am I going to fit everybody on my show? Because I had like so many people, and I was just like, what is going on? And then it was shown to me today, well, not today, but it was shown to me earlier on this year when I got back to work, that it would be, we'd be rolling out Enlightened Conversations instead of once a week, it would be daily. I'm like, okay, okay, that's a big game changer. But so I had all these people, such as yourself, booked in, excited too, like to talk to about everybody. And I had no control around, oh, I'm going to see that person on that day, or that. It was nothing like that. It was just all about just when are people available. Anyway, so I've got a few recordings per day, and the other recording that I have, the other pre-recording that I have today, you would not believe this, Jake. It's with a lady called Sharon Tregoni, and she's like, you know, really big in the whole, you know, death and dying scene and helping people and families, and that's her thing. And she's like on the board of I can't remember all the details of the she's some kind of representative for different bodies of associations, and amazing. So I really feel like Spirit's lined it up. Hey, I'm gonna just maybe message you to people and say, hey, Jacob, if you don't already know each other. Do you know Sharon at all?
I don't, but I thank you so much. I think, a lot of this is networking and acting as messengers and tools and almost angels for this process. I think, we separate ourselves with angels as messengers, but as human beings, we could really provide that role. We're here to learn, and to provide the as above, so below sensation. So I thank you for that. That's, to me, angelic. I can't pay that back. That's something. I'm always looking to, connect with like-minded people, and because I know there's so many out there who need the message. And while it's growing and the books are coming along with a lot of these people who've had these experiences, and even movies, have been there. This is still pretty new. It's still pretty raw. Started in the mid '90s. So, I'm excited to speak to her. That's really awesome.
And I think it's strength in numbers. I'm a big believer that, sometimes with our little eye, we think, oh, I'm the only one doing it, blah, blah, blah. It's rubbish. There's so many people wanting to connect, and it's kind of our job, I feel, as enlightened beings, to find and maximize those connections with people who are willing to, because we can do so much more together than we can do alone. And I think that's why Spirit wanted this show to be daily, because obviously Spirit's saying, well, we'd rather have more connections and we'd rather get them out there as soon as possible, rather than, string it out. Like, let's get it happening.
And it's all working out. I know sometimes we have our way of seeing things, but they're 20, 30 steps ahead. And they laugh at our analysis on their request, because they already seen everything unfold. And, as you know, when you cross over, time doesn't exist. You're able to see it all as one. And so that's easier said than done, for you to trust that and to do that. And it's amazing, but it requires a real passionate individual who puts herself aside and really allows yourself to step into Spirit. And I'm not there yet. You're doing it, but thank you for doing that.
It's a moment in time. I think you're doing a great job. You're doing a lot of steps inside.
I try to, yeah. But, yeah, thank you.
Hey, what's this stuff about perfection? Let's throw that out the window. We're exactly where we need to be every step of the way. Absolutely every step of the way. So we get ourselves off the hook and not have to do anything perfectly. We're just in that absolute, as you said, perfect imperfection, and that's perfect.
Yeah. Well, I got a healing today. Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you. I've really enjoyed it, and I feel like I've definitely gotten to know you so much more, which has been fantastic. And hopefully we'll be able to catch up when I go over to the States. Hopefully you'll be around when we fly into New York, and we can catch up. That'd be lovely. Yeah.
That's right. I really look forward to meeting you and your partner, and it's going to be exciting. And I know we've been talking about networking, but good things are to come, and hopefully we could try to work something out here, in New York. I know, I'm not sure if it's a vacation or if you're trying to, also maybe connect, but I know what will happen, and it'll definitely be pretty profound. So I'm looking forward to the summertime, and seeing you here. Yeah.
Yes, I honestly, look, you know what? This is kind of funny how it turned out. We were like, we really want to go to, this is going to sound odd as I describe our process, but bear with me. We really want to go visit our heritage. Tony's heritage is in Ireland. My heritage on my father's side is in Scotland. Yeah, okay, let's go. Let's plan that trip. And then we're like, well, we'll make sure we go to the UK too, because then, because it's right there. And and I've got contacts I'd really like to catch up with in Europe. That'd be awesome. And then we're like, okay, well, why don't we do a around the world tour so that it's cheaper? So you go, Asia, United States, UK, home. And then we're like, yeah, okay. And they were like, oh, well, while we're in US, do you want to do the East Coast and the West Coast? You can see where this is going. Oh my God. And we're like, it just kept getting bigger and bigger. Anyway, in the end, we decided that we were just so many places that we wanted to go in the USA. We just said, we can't just stop in one. We just have to, oh my God, we want to go there. We want to go to Niagara Falls. We want to go to Colorado. We want to go to the Grand Canyon. Oh my God. And then so we just went, you know what, let's just drop the UK side of it and just focus on the States. Because every time we wanted to do something in the States, someone would say, come and see me. And so you ask me, is this a worky tour or an enlightenment tour or a holiday tour? Or what is it? I can't tell you. I just know that Spirit wants me there, and I am open and willing to embrace the opportunities that are presented to me to meet amazing people at the same time. Because for me, I really don't feel like what I'm doing right now feels more like it's my authenticity, it's my reality, it's my real me. It's not my work. And I can't say I'm working when the reality is I do have to wake up in the morning and begin work, but honestly, I just don't feel it's work. So that's my answer to that.
You're going to be Michelle, you know.
Exactly. So we'll see what Spirit wants to serve up. And I'm sure we'll know by then, because we do tend to know before ahead of time. They do give us some kind of warning.
Okay, good. It's all going to be great. I'm really looking forward to, you know, talking about in the months to come of, what, how we could meet and what's going to go on. And it's terrific. Yeah.
Awesome.
You chose
well, thank you.
Yeah.
What's that?
You chose well with coming here. That was a good choice.
Yeah. Can't wait. Well, thank you so much again, Jake. I've had a great time and glad that everybody could be a little voyeur into our conversation, our enlightened conversation. That was just awesome. So thanks for joining me, and I'm sure there'll be more to come.
Thank you so much for having me. And, we'll touch base soon. It was a great show. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.